Welcome to Wire Guild. The tutorial that I'm going to be showing you is a triple spiral, which is a very Celtic design, and this is pendant. As you can see, it's kind of rustic looking, but it's really nice. It looks very effective when it's on. You'll need three 3-inch pieces of 1mm or 18 gauge round copper wire. I've used a small amount of wire to do the binding. Now that could be a fine round wire or a half round binding wire. It really doesn't matter, whatever you've got. So I've got my 3 pieces of copper and I've got them already cut into 3-inch lengths. Now I don't tend to use jigs or anything like that, so I'm going to show you how to get all your 3 spirals just the same. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to grip the very end of my wire in my round nose pliers, and I'm going to curl it over as if I was making a head pin. So I'm just going to grip and curve until I've got it like that. I'm not going to straighten it up, it's not a head pin, it's just the start of our spiral. So I'm going to do the same with the second one. Grip and twist. Needs a little bit more force because it being 1mm wire or 18 gauge rather than the 0.8 that I usually use. So I'm having to put a little bit more force on. So I've got 3 pieces of wire, all with curls at the end. Now what I'm doing is I'm getting them straightened up so the curls are all the same way. I'm putting my pliers. Now you see, pliers don't want to go in the end because they're too fat, so I have a thinner pair. In we go. Push those in. Grip all 3 wires. Now I'm gripping by putting the pliers into where the wires meet. Can you see? That forms a block, and then gradually I am holding the end of the wires and bringing around into a spiral. I'm twisting with both hands, the right hand and the left hand, and there 3 identical spirals. The problem is you can't make this pendant unless they're all alike, because it just doesn't look right. So if I just put them back together, we'll see that you can see that they're all the same, can't you? So your triple spiral goes like that. Obviously I can't leave the bits sticking out at the end, but I'm going to show you what to do with those. So now I need a piece of wire to bind these together to make sure that they all stay firm, and I just got a piece of 0.4mm or 26 gauge round wire, but if you had binding wire you could use that, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to go on and I'm going to wrap around maybe 3 or 4 times. The great thing about this is it's meant to look rustic, so don't worry too much about these being perfect. So I'm going to slide that so that it's down into the curve of the circle. Just get that bit out of the way. Slide it in. There we go. So it's on the inside of that curve, and add the other one. Make sure that your curls are both going the same way when you add the next one in. So you can see there that they're both going the same way around. And then I'm just going to put that through. And then I'm going to wrap around one, probably the same number of times. You can see that I'm wrapping away from the centre of the spiral and towards the point, because that's what we've just done really with the other one, even though we slid it into place. So now adding my third one in, making sure that that spiral is still going the same way. The whole thing doesn't work if you get one of the spirals the wrong way around. And then just hold that together with your fingers. It says I don't want to. There we go, got it. And just wrap around the same 3 or 4 times that you've already done. Now if you were using a binding wire, you would probably find it easier to bind over in 3 sections, because obviously you wouldn't need as many to go on, it's not as fine. But with the round wire I can just sort of bind over 2 or 3 times. But like I say, it's meant to look sort of rustic. So that's my 3 pieces together. Obviously I now need to link me just do something with that end. I'm just squeezing the wires up. I'm going to use my pliers because it's often easier just to get something out of the way with your pliers. So this last piece of wire I'm bringing around and just joining it in with the one that we first started on. There we go. And then I'm just going to wrap around one. So I've gone over both wires there to loop them both together. Move that end bit out of the way. I'm going to go around again and again. Flatten it down with my pliers. Flattening down with your pliers just sort of tightens it on to the wire. When you feel that you've wrapped this round enough and that it's stable, just give it a couple of times around one wire, pushing that wire in each time, and then just trim. And as I've shown you with the pliers, squeeze those wires together and then smooth that wire down. So I've still got the little end bit that we started with. Whoops, come here. So I need to get rid of that, so let's just trim it off. Take my pliers and press that down. Okay, now we've got our 3 spirals together and they're all laying nice and flat, but they're a bit wobbly. Look, they're sort of floppy. Absolutely no use for a pendant. Now we need to do something with the ends. Now there's 2 ways you can do this. I'm going to show you one just quickly on one of them, and then I'm going to rectify it to a second way that I prefer, but I know a lot of people do prefer to do it tight. So I'll grab the end, the very end of the wire, and then I'm just taking it over the spiral to the right. So if you're holding it there, your spiral comes up and it's going to curve around the spiral that's next to it. So we want that curve to match the curve of the spiral. So sometimes that's easier if you just take your pliers and put your pliers over the top and bring the 2 wires together. Now there is a little bump in there that I'm not happy with, but let's do the next one. So up, over the top, follow the curve of the spiral. There we go. And the same with the next one. Grab it at the end, up, down, all the way around, following that curve. Okay, so it's already feeling much more secure. It's stronger, but you need to do something with your ends. You can't just leave them loose, they may catch. So we can do one of 2 things. Now the first thing you can do, and usually if I'm going to do this style I have more wire, but I'll just give you a quick idea and show you. Not quite happy with that curve there. Okay, if I had longer wire, what you could do is all the way around is you could attach each wire to the next loop, and I'll just show you what I mean. You would take your pliers and make a little bend in the end and just link it into the next wire, making it nice and firm and tight. You'd take your pliers and you'd bend that up and you'd lock it into place. However, you would need to be thinking about using probably 3.5 inches to do this. Maybe if I'd made my spirals a bit less. Can you see how it's sort of pulled against that wire? It wouldn't do that if it was that bit longer, because you could go all the way over the next spiral and you would get this sort of framework. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do it with the amount of wire that I've got, and that is to bend the wire in loop so that it raises upwards, make the curl around the middle area, press that down. You only need to go around once. It's not like it's, you know, a structural fastening or anything like that. It's just to hold. Come here. It's just to hold it. So I'm going to do the same on the next one. I haven't cut that end bit off yet, but I will do in a second. So let's just bend that into the right place. All little movements. It's always little movements. Don't ever try and, oh yeah, trim that end off. Once the end is trimmed off, you can just press it down. Right. So I've got my next one coming up and over the top. This is a little bit more flamboyant than that first one that I showed you. The first one's very tight and very circular, and really probably more of the Celtic carvings and designs that we see over here in Ireland so much. This with the loop on the top is more probably me. It's more what I like rather than the real sort of thing, but it's only an idea of it. So I'm going to curve that in until it goes all the way in. I'm just supporting with my other hand all the time because we don't want it to pull out of shape. We don't want to pull your circles out of shape. You're trying to get that wrapped round with as little effect on that spiral as possible. So I'll get my pliers the right, snips the right way around. We'll just trim that off and press that down. So you've got the first one that I showed you if you want a very tight one, or you've got the other two legs that I've just done which make a much more open one. So I'm just going to take that off now. There's no point in doing one unless I've done it all to match. You can't have one odd leg. So let's just put that curve in like I have done with the other three, bend it around, tighten that down. It's a strange balance with wire, this being firm enough with it to move it, but not being that firm that you're distorting the shape of the rest of the piece that you made. And it is something that comes with practice. You do get used to holding something firmly but not over tight. We don't want to bend it, we don't want to push it out of shape. So I've trimmed off and I'm just pressing that down. There we go. My take on a Celtic spiral, now really nice and strong. Quite sweet, light, delicate, pretty little pendant. But of course you need something to hang it from. So I'm just, if you've got, I don't know, a jump ring kicking around, but I don't tend to buy things like jump rings. I make them myself and I don't like the idea of just a single loop. So I'm just going to get my round nose pliers and twist and bend this around all the way around. This is just a piece of scrap that I had kicking around, and it is 0.8mm. It's 20 gauge rather than the 18 gauge, but you could use a piece of the 18, doesn't matter. I'm just pressing that down with my pliers, and I've made 2 full circles around the pliers, and it's created like a little like a key ring, you know, the little spiral loop you get on keys, and you thread it on much the same way. Well, you do if it doesn't bounce out of your hand. So I'm just going to open it with my fingernails. I'm going to try and open it with my fingernails. There we go. Right, just open that up and push that in, and then just use my pliers and just pull that round. There we go. And we get to the point then that it's there, circling the pendant. Now close it all back up again, straighten it up where I bent it with my fingers, and then you can just add a leather thong or a chain or a ribbon, and you've got a little Celtic spiral. I, of course, am going to oxidize it because I have a thing about doing oxidization. I'll show you that photo in a minute. Just a little bit of background about the Celtic spiral. It's often said that it represents the maiden, the mother and the crone, and it's used as a symbol to empower women. However, there's many other meanings here in Ireland for the triple spiral. Life, death, rebirth, spirit, mind, body, mother, father, child, past, present, future, power, intellect, love, and creation, preservation and destruction. And that just names a few of them, particularly before it was sort of adopted by the Christian faith and became, you know, sort of the Holy Trinity. Another meaning, and I think this is probably my favourite and the one that I love about this spiral pendant, and that the three spirals symbolise movement. The idea that when you wear it, you've got this almost perpetual motion of the three spirals going round, and therefore it represents forward movement. So that's mine oxidised. I hope you enjoyed watching. Happy wrapping.